Hello, everybody. My name is Boulevard, and welcome to something that I haven't done before. Casanova on the broadcast asked, made a call to content creators out there, break down the last turn of Game 3 of the Beyond the Bandlewood Seasonal for me, and I figured, hey, I'm an analyst. I can do that. Let's dive right into that. So, what I'm going to be doing today is starting at turn 6, which is the second to last turn, kind of going through the motions, talking about the different lines that everybody could have taken and how the seasonal ended up in the way that it did. And I will be joined by a very special guest in Kochua himself so that he can give a little bit of insight into some of the plays and we can get to peel back the curtain a little bit into these things. Kochua, how you doing?
I'm doing all right. Still a little tired, but there was certainly a lot to think about and to make me tired going through these. So happy to go back through it with you, and looking forward to seeing it again.
All right, so we're going to start off on turn 6. For those of you that didn't see the seasonal, the setup here, as you can see, both players' hands full of a lot of decisions to be made. There's a Sparkle Fly on Octi's side alongside the leveled Nami. We're going to start there, and it is Kochua's attack turn. Sivir is, I believe, 4 damage away from leveling up, so she will level pretty much as soon as we go into combat and get the attack off with the Sivir, but there are no leveled champion. Oh, no, I lied. Akshan is leveled, so we do have access to both the Absolver and the Absolver's Return. And we'll just hit play, let this play out for a little bit to see what the first action you actually take is, Kochua.
Yep. As we go here, you'll see I think about it for a while. There's a bunch of cards I can afford to play, and as we sort of go through and see what I actually choose to do, it ends up being just to open swing.
I remember looking back at this and being like, I don't think I would have opened swing because personally, I don't think I was really considering this a rally turn.
Yeah, it's a really good point. I wasn't totally sure which turn I was considering a rally turn. I knew I was the aggressive deck here. I knew I wanted to put on the pressure. I knew that once Silver was leveled, rally would be great because it would not only rally but give barrier to everyone. So I wasn't totally sure if this was the rally turn or the next one. And I definitely wanted to just start opening up with the attack, level the Silver, keep my options open. I have tons of buff spells. Let's just see how we block. So that's why I opened this way.
And then, if I remember correctly, Octi just hits pass after the block, and you hit pass back, right? I'm pretty sure. We'll let it play out for a second here, and then this is where you really need to think about, like, what combat tricks am I using? Personally, I think I would have gone in on trying to kill the Sparklefly using as much as like Absolver's Return, and I would have thought real hard about second Absolver or Sharp Sight if it got to that, but like with 7 mana, if there's like one Sunblessed Vigor, then I understand this kind of just gets blown out of the water and things get a little bit worse for you. But you really only have to commit, what, 1 mana at that point? It's tough for sure, and I don't fault you for just hitting the OK button, but I think that like not killing the Sparklefly, because I believe this is the second one, was really something that like, kind of started to turn the match. But I understand, like, if you hit OK, you get to kill the Nami, right? And in your head, that's like, yeah, Nami's gone. What do I care about the Sparklefly? Maybe there's a second Nami, but that's, X mana committed on my opponent's side, and maybe I can push through the lethal from there.
Yeah, so here's what I'm thinking here, right? So if I hit accept, I lose the Akshan, but the Nami goes down as well, and I keep my Merciless because Sivir is leveled. So do a quick pause on this as I'm thinking about it. So I thought, okay, I can play the Trick War with action. I can try to get over the top of Sparklefly. If I do it, I get to trade off the Sparklefly for free because of the quick attack. But here's what I'm thinking: I can push up to 6 buffs, right? I can spend 6 mana and push up to 6 buffs. But it would take me both halves of an Absolver, and it would take me either the next Absolver, and I definitely need one of those for the lethal push,
Right.
or it would take me my Sharp Sight, right? And I'm thinking in my head, I really want my Sharp Sight next turn paired with Brightsteel Protector,
Yes.
barrier up my Sivir, and to block an elusive without giving the opportunity to lifesteal. So I was like, I really want to save Sharp Sight here. So really effectively, I've got 4 that I can push. And I'm thinking with 7 mana up, right, it's really, really easy for him to get the Sparklefly over 7 health, right? That's the key thing,
Yeah.
especially if he has one single spell thief, right? He spell thieves, he probably grabs a buff spell as well, or I guess technically in combat he can't grab the 0 mana the font spell. But I'm
Yeah.
just saying, look, there's no way. And I also give him a chance to protect his Nami here too. So I just say, fine, I have second action. I'll just accept this. I don't want to get into a war I might lose.
And if I remember correctly, one Spell Thief was gone at this point. It was used on a Shapestone. One thing I did want to ask you is we can see the Sivir here is going unblocked. There's 11 life on your opponent's side. And with your hand, you can actually buff this Sivir to 11. Was there any consideration to try and go for that lethal.
I saw it. I saw it about like right here on the clock. And I said, shoot, 6 damage. I'm about to be the seasonal champion. And I said, no, I get blown out very, very hard, of course, right, by any single guiding touch. And I think he'd maybe used one guiding touch just a bit earlier. So it would have had to have been the second or the third. But I said, look, I feel pretty solid. I've got all the tools at my disposal. If I go all in on this one and just lose to a single guiding touch, I don't think that's the way that I want this game to go. So I thought about it. I really did. And then I said, no, I can't go all in here because the punish is too easy.
Right. And I think this is the part where, like, when you hit okay, this is a big turning point because losing the Auction spell in your hand, like, if you had been able to preserve the Auction this turn, maybe there was a consideration of, like, I don't even attack with the Auction, but, like, you need to present lethal, so I understand what you're going for here. It's just really awkward that, you kind of end up losing the Auction, you lose access to that spell, and now you don't have that opportunity to finish off either the Nami or the Sparklefly. Was there like any point where you thought about maybe opening the turn with Brightsteel Protector and using the Auction spell or Absolver or Sharpsight or anything along those lines to try and kill one of these units or at least get some spells out of your opponent before combat started?
Yeah, that's a really great point, right? Because what I could have done is I could have opened with Brightsteel Protector onto Sivir. Once the Sivir levels, everyone else gets the barrier, and my Akshan doesn't die in combat, basically no matter what, right?
Right.
There might be some fringe things that come to, but really it's safe. This is the line I saw some people pointing out later. I'm gonna admit I totally missed it. I like totally whiffed on it because I was tunneling really hard on the idea of the following turn. Hey, I really want Brightsteel plus Sharpsight to deny any life gain and give me a free trade with barrier onto a big elusive. I was thinking down the road. I was thinking, okay, I 6 mana might not be enough to win this turn, but if I can sort of wall off the biggest elusive on 7, trade it for free, I can swing back on 8 and win the game. So I just tunneled a little bit too hard on thinking a couple turns down the road and missed the fact that, yeah, Brightsteel Protector for 2 mana right here to keep up Akshan, have a board 4 wide. That would have been really, I think that would have been probably the right way to go in retrospect.
Yeah, and especially because you have the second barrier in the Golden Aegis that you could have played next turn, sort of at the same speed that you would have played the Brightsteel Protector, still have a barriered up thing to use with the Sharpsight, and then even get the rally off. But I'm not sure, what you were planning out, how the mana was going to play out into that next turn, if that was even something that you could really commit all of that to, and still have like an impactful attack with that Golden Aegis.
Yeah, totally agree. And that if I would have gone down that line with the Brightsteel Protector, I think I probably get the game from there. I think just that one play probably flips things around enough. Keep the Akshan spell up. Maybe use it to swing if he puts a second Nami or something down. I think that's probably enough to get me there. But let's see how the rest of this turn plays out. So he drops the second Nami, which I pretty much expected since he was willing to give up the first one, right?
Yeah.
Which is part of why I didn't, that's part of why I didn't necessarily, want to commit too much. Because I said, okay, I have another Nami to deal with now. Sadly, I don't have the Akshan spell to deal with it, which would have been really nice to have. So instead, and I think this is probably another place where I sort of err. I go ahead, I think about it, I pull it out, I put it back, and I go ahead and go with the rally. So what are your thoughts about this rally?
I don't think I ever would have made this play. I really like utilizing Rally with as much mana as possible. So I think I would have even just like played Auction and kind of passed from there and then tried to rally in conjunction with a Resolver on my opponent's turn and then use the second Absolver on my own turn and try to push through lethal in that way, especially since I still have the barrier Sharpsight for the Sparklefly next turn. Or even if my opponent just goes in for an open attack with the Sparklefly, I can probably still kill it by sharp sighting something because it is so damaged.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's right. What I was thinking here is basically the following, right? So I push this and I threaten 10 damage. Putting him to 1, if I have like a backup Sivir for Sivir spell, right? It's kind of a tenuous place to be. So what I'm hoping here, right, is I'm hoping that I force one of these 2 key units to block, and then maybe I can pick it off with a buff spell, right?
Right.
Now that is really, really bad if he has any way to put any kind of semblance of a blocker on board for less than 3 mana. And as we're just about to see on the very left side of his hand, he's got the free Burblefish to give him a beautiful chump block to what I'm about to do.
Not only that, but that Burblefish is going to give him a Spell Thief that is, this is where things start to get really wonky and the infinite universes start to come into things, right? I told everybody, I made a big deal, Kochua was 90% to win this tournament. This is where the 10% comes in, is like this Burblefish grabbing a Spell Thief, you passing priority back over, Spell Thief grabbing the Warlords whatever to summon the Sandstone Charger and make sure that they have another blocker. Although at this point they were kind of safe to block with the Nami, right? I think he ends up taking 7 damage or so and not putting the Nami in front of the Merciless Hunter, but once this Burblefish comes down, this attack just looks so mediocre.
Yep, and with the burble down, I'm like, shoot, I got to put a little bit more pressure on. Okay, Akshan seems kind of free here. I'll throw that down to try to push just a little bit more. I still have my plan for next turn. But then he plays the spell thief. So I'm gonna. If we pause for a second, I'm gonna make an admission here. This is a mess up on my side, and it's a very small thing, right? But it's something that the very best players do, and I did not do correctly. Even though it was incredibly obvious, it came right off the far side of the hand. I did not correctly track that the Spell Thief came off Burble because it's a card you run in your deck. I saw Spell Thief. I said,
Right.
oh, he played a Spell Thief, right? So next turn when we were getting there, I was waiting for some little 1 mana card, right, to come out of the and it was gone, right, because it was already
Yeah.
played. And I also in my head did not realize, right, that hey, he has 3 Spell Thieves in his deck, and the second Spell Thief he's played this game right now didn't come from his deck. It came from the Burblefish. So it's not that he only has 1 left in its deck. It's that he has 2 left in his deck, and that'll become really important a bit later.
Relic of Power, that's what it's called. I never remember the name of this thing because, like, when you're casting, you just call it the Akshan spell, and everybody knows what you're talking about. But does just go for the Sandstone Charger rather than a draw, and like this is where the elusives are starting to look a little bit out of hand. Did you ever think that like, hey, I might just die on the open attack next turn?
No, because I have the sharp side, right? So worst case scenario, I was like, ah, shoot, this open attack's a little scary, but worst case scenario, I just throw a Merciless Hunter in front of it with a sharp sight, and it's probably hard for him to get over 6 health, so at least we trade. So I'm just okay. I'll take my free swing. I'm not going to get as much as I wanted. He used some resources, right? He didn't draw a card here. He played out a charger. From this position, even though the rally is probably bad, I'm hoping we're still in a pretty favorable position.
I'm actually really surprised that your opponent didn't block the Merciless Hunter with the Nami here, just because I feel like if I were in Ochidi's position and you rallied here, I would be expecting another rally on the following turn.
I think I agree with that. Yeah, in the end, it was a pretty frivolous rally. I think it would have been much better to save it for next turn when I could back it up with Absolver.
And now we enter the final turn of the game, the one that everybody is going to be talking about probably for the rest of time. So you top deck the Akshan spell, right? Which is a pretty good top deck here. It now gives you the opportunity to try and kill something, especially since you were already planning on playing that Brightsteel Protector anyway. But Ochidi draws just another 1 mana elusive, and that's going to come in a little bit later here. Fleet Admiral Shell, you may be thinking, like, there's only 5 mana left. What could possibly happen for the rest of the turn on 5 mana to make this so worth talking about? But oh, you will see.
Oh yeah, and for me, I've got 7 mana. I'm like, hey, I had 4 for Brightsteel and Sharpsight. Now I've got 3 for Akshan spell. I can almost see $10,000 in front of me at this point, right?
Yeah.
I've got my perfect mana usage. I can remove a thing. I can block a thing, and then it happens, right? So we go to the next turn. I look at it. I make a choice here, right? I say, okay, I can take my Sivir and swing at something, just to try to control the board a bit. It seems like a free roll, right? It's a slow spell. I have to use it before he attacks.
Yeah.
And I could pick a few things here. So let's just pause it. What if you were going to commit Akshan spell here? What's the right thing to swing at?
I definitely think I would have gone at the Sparklefly, but since it is so low on health and that was your perceived sharp sight block anyway, because you're not really worried about reducing the amount of damage that you're taking, right? Like you could take the shot at like Fleet Admiral Shelley and then block the Sparklefly. And like, yes, you're taking a lot of damage from the Burblefish, but you're at 19. That's not going to kill you, especially because the Spell Thief spell was already played. You know that there wasn't like a Golden Aegis or something that was stolen. And as you had mentioned, you're pretty sure they're down to 1 Spell Thief. Even if they had it here, they wouldn't have the mana to rally and kill you. I do think that the shot at the Sparklefly was correct, but like because I definitely don't expect Shelly to get out of hand and kill me here, right? Especially because you have the sharp set on backup. If there was, Ochidi had a way to save the Sparklefly from just this interaction. If you use the Sunblessed Vigor and the Guiding Touch, then it'll actually go up to 7 health because Fleet Admiral Shelley will buff it up alongside, the 4 health that it's getting here. I actually thought Ochidi was going to take that line, and the seasonal was just going to end right there when you sharp sight the Sivir to guarantee the kill onto this, still have this barriered up blocker. And I actually thought that Ochidi disconnected when they let the timer run out without doing anything. But like, I don't
Really?
know. Yeah, I don't know that Fleet Admiral Shelley is a play that anybody would have made.
Yeah, no, fair enough, fair enough. I was thinking on this one, I'm going to swing at Sparkle in part because Burble I was still looking for that Burble spell, right? I
Yeah,
thought it
yeah.
was still sitting there, and it gives vulnerable spells, right? So I buried up my Sivir, But if he vulnerables away the Sivir and runs it into, I don't know, Zoe or even Nami, right, a non-elusive, then I'm gonna have to sharp sight something else, and the Sparkle I may be able to trade with it, but it's gonna get a huge amount of lifesteal going in as well, right?
Right, and you're
So I was
looking
like,
for
all
that
right,
last bit of lethal with the Absolver returns on the following turn.
exactly. And I'm also thinking, okay, Shelly's on the board, Nami's on the board, their health's gonna be going up next turn a bit, right? I think I want to just make sure that they're on 4 to start that turn. So I swing at the Sparkle. It's kind of funny because all with everything that happened later, I think even if I swing at Shelly, no matter even after what happens next, I think that still might be enough to prevent enough buffs to win the game. But yeah, I think assuming I played correctly from this point, swinging at Sparklefly was probably correct.
I think swinging at Shelly might have won you the game, but that's only if you expect everything that is to come, which is extremely unreasonable. And then I think the play after this is where Twitch chat came in with their challenger level brains and were like, "Oh, you should never play the Fount of Power. You're just supposed to pass." But we'll let this play out for a second and get into that when it happens. Yeah, like
Yeah,
here,
what do you?
I thought he just disconnected, and I was like, "Oh,
Uh,
okay." Like he gave up or something. This is the end of the seasonal. It goes out with a whimper.
Yep. So as it is here, he hasn't disconnected. He plays. I think he plays the guiding touch to draw as his next play. Yeah. He comes up with something. Oh, Chidi told me afterwards that this was like the first time he'd ever been like in a real tournament timer pressure situation. So he was
Right.
like really, really frustrated, but he got the plays in. So he does that and he passes over priority to me. And let's pause it right here, right? I've got 4 cards in hand.
Yep.
One of them, if I want to use it, I have to use it this turn, right?
Yeah.
I'm looking at the board here, right? He has 2 mana left, and I think the next spell he plays, right, will tick the Shelly.
Yes.
So he's pushing in theory like 7 plus 5 plus 5, right? That's like 17 elusive damage with 1 spell, and if he can play 2, maybe it's 2 more than that. But I still have my blocker, right?
Right.
Very clearly at this point, if I just hold, right?
Yeah.
If I pass, just to switch that thought, right? I should win the game. What I'm thinking here at this point is the following, though. Here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking next turn I'm going to open. I'm doing the math in my head, right? I'm going to
Mhm.
open with 10 mana. I'm going to open with 10 mana, of which I want to commit at least 8 of them to absolvers. But wait. I also probably have to still sharp sight this turn, so that'll use up the rest of my mana this turn. I'm only going to open with 8 mana, which is literally just I jam my absolvers. I hope for the best. It probably still gets me there, right? But
Right.
I'm looking at a Shelly on board. I'm looking at Nami on board. He's going to untap with like potentially 2 or 3 cards. I'm saying, is there some world that it doesn't get me there, right? Am I saying that, if I swing with my board, is there some world in which they can do lots and lots of buffs, maybe cycle some stuff, maybe a guiding touch to heal them, and it doesn't actually kill them on the open? So I'm saying, okay, I'm very safe. I've got my sharp side. Nothing bad can happen here. What I really want to do is not only draw a couple cards to use next turn, but I can also discount my sharp side for 1 mana this turn, right? I can go with 1 more mana into next turn. Does that make a difference? No, it shouldn't have. Does it give him potentially the only out he has to win the seasonal? Yes, it does. But that's what I was thinking. I was thinking ahead
Yeah.
of my mana next turn. I was saying, I think I'm safe this turn. I really want to make sure I get there on my open swing. And so I play the card.
And in all fairness, the defense that I have for your play is that if you had drawn a second sharp sight or a single combat, then nothing Ochidi drew would have mattered, and you still would have won the seasonal because the cost reduction would have come down. You would have been able to either double sharp sight or like sharp sight and single combat the Sivir to like kill something with the barrier and then still block something or what have you. And I think that it was like perfectly reasonable to go through the muscle memory here. Like this is never like I will flame players for bad plays. This is not something I would flame you for in any universe.
I think it was probably the wrong decision, but you can see considerations for it, right? I
Yeah.
have to not draw anything. He has to have the spell thief. The spell thief has to hit. And
Yes.
remember, at this point, I thought we had 2 spell thieves out. The spell
Right.
thief has to hit the font of power.
And that's a big
Um,
thing is like it has to hit Fount of Power, and then this Fount of Power has to draw an elusive that he can play, of which there is like he can play a Sparklefly, but then he's still out of spells for the turn. So like he has to hit exactly Wiggly Burblefish is the only way that you ever lose this game from here. And oh look, there's a Wiggly Burblefish.
Sure enough, sure enough. I mean, that's the kind of moments that make the seasonal finale just as exciting as it was. So he puts this out, and so I'm looking at this now, and as soon as I see the fount of power go down, I'm like, okay, shoot, this is going to be really close. Like,
Right.
how close is it going to be? And I do the math, and I realize, okay, as he opens, and he's going to open relatively soon here, I think I'm not dead. But I do realize, I think it's maybe with one or two more Nami ticks and a Shelly tick that I am dead. And I know that everything in his hand is discounted by one, and the
Right.
entire deck he runs is 2 cost or less spells. So I'm sitting here with the Burblefish. I know he has a 0 cost spell. I'm just hoping after he's done this that it's not burst, right? He would have probably played it before attacking if it wasn't.
Yeah.
But yeah, at this point it's just all over, and he gets there I think by one or with precise lethal. And it was it was quite a finish.
Yeah, and I think, it's just like a lesson for the future of like, that your opponent is going to attack before the turn ends, so you still have more time to play that Fount of Power. And unless you were specifically looking for second Sharpsight or single combat, you're not playing anything that you draw until, like nothing matters going into combat unless it is very specifically one of those two spells. So like just hanging it on for like one more priority sequence until after the fact. And like, I don't even know if Ochidi would have gone for the burst pass there if they weren't under the pressure of the clock and just like
Mm.
played the Pale Cascade to like pass the clock back over to you. Like it was the culmination of so many little things. And as you had mentioned, yeah, this is 20 damage that comes through to end the seasonal.
Yeah, it sure does. And I'm curious, like even after this attack goes through, let's say it's not lethal because I haven't played the Fount. Do you
Right.
still play the Fount then? Because if you do, he can open next turn with a crazy Miracle Rogue turn where he just cycles everything and runs through cards potentially. And now I'm probably not getting there with my Absolver attack. So I think I think the answer is yeah, you're supposed to just honestly sit on the Fount of Power and not play it, and that's the line it took to win seasonals.
I think
And it took a
playing it
lot of.
I think playing it post combat is fine because it's a focus speed spell. So if you do go for the open attack, then they can't actually go for the fount
Fair
to
point.
draw cards and things like that. But yeah, I think like you're probably just like that's one of those things you're just gonna have to live down of like if you had just not played it pre combat, then you would have won the seasonal. But I mean that's what makes these moments so cool and high pressure.
Yeah, and you actually the last time I was in a tournament final at OLS, you saw the same thing. I was in the final, I was about to win it, and a really impressive string of cards, really at the end for my opponent, coupled with a minor misplay in ordering for my part, cost a title, and that's just what's so beautiful about the game. You have to you bring the right decks, play as well as you can. Get some luck, and sometimes it's even the one misplay you make at the end of 6 hours that ends up turning the whole thing and sending the casters into total chaos.
An absolute frenzy because of a spell thief into a fount of power that wasn't guaranteed into a burblefish draw into a spell that I mean it didn't really do anything but just being able to hit that burblefish there was just absolutely insane. Still having the guiding touch, the pale cascade damage didn't quite matter, but there was a universe where it did, and just yeah, I mean that is apparently what it takes for you to lose a seasonal, Kochua. So I am extremely excited to see what you are going to have for us in store for the next one, and I wish you luck in the rest of your competitions.
Yeah, thanks very much. It was a pleasure doing this with you, and maybe we can do it again sometime.
Absolutely. Did you have anything that you wanted to say before I let you go? Any shout outs, anything like that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, absolutely. Shout outs, I guess, to shout outs to only my man Boulevard for being the one to believe in me. No, that as well, but also, of course, my prep for this was with Sergey Tuvamos, who took the same lineup to EU, and maybe had even a better field to take it into, but went out in top 8. So he didn't have quite the luck I did, but. His idea for this list was really really solid, and yeah, had a really really fun ride with it. So yeah, thanks to him, and thanks for having me on today.
No problem. Thank you very much.